Thank you for coming out during the storm. This storm is symbolic of what this press conference is all about. But the goal of this press conference is to move forward in a positive direction, not dwell in the past. That starts with defunding the $4.6 million that was in the budget last June that passed by the legislature, that $4.6 million for staff salaries and benefits compared to the proposed DCYF budget before the legislature right now. My name is Matthew Gunnip. I'm president of SEIU Local 580. We represent frontline workers at DCYF and seven other agencies. As part of Local 580, an SEIU affiliation, we're part of the SEIU State Council, which includes my brother Jesse Martin from 1199, who's also president of the State Council, SEIU 401, and SEIU 32BJ. And the significance of that is we're not just a union of about 900 members. We're part of a state council of thousands of members, and we're part of an international union of 2 million members. We just came from a conference with 2 million, representing 2 million SEIU members across not only the country, but Canada. And they talked about the ability to strike. You see the strikes all over the country. Last year, 159,000 workers went on strike in this country. But we don't have the ability to do that. There's a law saying we can't strike. So collective bargaining is all about the ability to use worker power at the negotiating table to negotiate in good faith. But the power behind collective bargaining is really the ability to strike, and we can't do that. So we're here today to focus on, one, restoring the $4.6 million. Why is that important? We don't have to go into every detail about everything we've seen in the media regarding the challenges we have as a child welfare system. Now that's not new, but our legislature really stepped up in a big way in 2021 to pass legislation to finalize accreditation. And we're not there yet. We're not yet there yet. The legislature put about $10 million extra in the budget to fund accreditation to go towards staff salaries and benefits. And yes, has it been very challenging to fill those positions? Yes, it has. However, when we're thinking about our children and families we serve, we need to set the bar higher, not lower by taking away that $4.6 million in funding. And I get it, it's hard to recruit and retain, but we also have solutions to that. There's a lot of different reasons. And we worked with the executive branch collaboratively last legislative session to pass a law that streamlined the hiring process regarding civil service exams. But still the challenges persist. So we're here today to say, okay, we're willing to come to the table, but we need the community, we need the executive branch, we need the legislative branch to come with us in good faith to be able to improve the child welfare system, specifically make sure we have safe staffing. And you're in a building right now, and there's a second floor up there, Child Protective Services, and they have a quiet crisis right now. And what I mean by quiet crisis is when I started DCYF in 2005, my mother started in 1990, so I've been part of DCYF work culture since 1990. So I don't know how many positions they had in 1990, but I can tell you when I started in 2005, there was 850 positions in the budget. When the legislature took the bold move to pass accreditation, that brought up the staffing level to 700. Still 150 from what it was when I started. And now this $4.6 million in reduced funding cuts into that even more, the 700 that we're supposed to be reaching towards for state staffing. And we need to raise the bar. And the ask is just to, number one, level fund what you had last year to restore that. And number two, we need support to really get real with each other about the fact that we need to have competitive wages with Massachusetts and Connecticut. There's a worker in this room right now, who was a youth in care in DCYF. He's an adopted parent, and he literally had an interview in Connecticut for DCYF this week, which he's going to be able to make up to 17% to 27% more. That's wrong. We had another worker here that served in my unit on the front lines, got promoted to administrator in DCYF, and then went for a lower level position in Connecticut making more money, living in Rhode Island, just traveling right across the border. So we just want to have the message out there as far as Local 580 is that we understand the financial challenges. We really do within the state. We get that. We understand that collective bargaining is supposed to be, with the executive branch, not the legislature. We get that. But we're caught up in a bind right now. And kind of like kids being caught up in a custody battle, which I think that's a very good analogy, because we want to avoid that. We have 1 or 2 weeks before this legislature makes final decisions on the budget. So we have a moment. We have a choice to make. And I hope we make the right choice. Because right now, we're in a position where if we talk to the executive branch, the message is, oh, I would like to, raise wages. Who wouldn't for the workers? But where's the money? If we go to the legislature, it's kind of, hey, listen, you have collective bargaining. You got to go to the executive branch. So the first ask is restore that money. The second ask is let's all have a serious conversation about ensuring that we have competitive wages in Massachusetts and Connecticut for frontline workers. And I just want to end and talk about the second floor in Child Protective Services and how we have a quiet crisis. And what I mean by that is that every child fatality report for the last 20 years, has said the same damn thing. The same damn thing. So when I talk about the quiet crisis upstairs, I don't want 1 week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, there to be a child death, and they're unraveling the same story we've heard for the last 20 years, which I'm telling you right now. And the story in Child Protective Services, when I started back in 2005, we had investigators who had like 5 years minimum of experience working on the front lines of DCYF. Just like law enforcement, you don't start the first day as law enforcement and being a detective. You need to have institutional knowledge and skills. But we're taking people right off the streets who are willing to do this important work, and we're not paying them a fair and decent wage to recruit and retain them, and to grow them. Meanwhile, they have caseloads up to 2.5 times right now the state standard for accreditation. 2.5 times. So this is a moment that we all need to come together. I understand there's no easy solutions to any of this. It's easy to hold a press conference and, demand what we think is best for the children and families we serve. But we do appreciate there's challenges. We have budget challenges. But why I tell you that this moment is right now is because we're going to be facing possibly $200+ million budget deficit next year. And how did we get from 850 positions to 700 after the legislature took the incredible step of putting $10 million in the budget? It's because when we face budget deficits and there's vacancies, they cut the funding for the vacancies. Because, they don't need them, so they must not need them because they're not filling them. Or regardless, they're not filling them effectively, that's money we have to use somewhere else. We're facing a budget deficit. So we're here to have real solutions, not just about competitive wages, but that's one thing the legislature, the state, the executive branch can do right now is to support competitive wages because they have the ability to do that. There's other issues that we're willing to come to the table to, which is a real holistic approach, and we had good faith effort in doing, just like expediting the process for the civil service exam. We're willing to roll our sleeves up and continue the work. We understand that there's no easy solutions, but we all need to work together. So with that said, I want to introduce my brother Jesse Martin from the SEIU State Council, president of SEIU State Council, and executive president of SEIU 1199 in New England.
We're here in support, again, I'm the president of the SEIU State Council. We represent over 8,000 Rhode Islanders across both the private sector and public sector that provide frontline services in really every care setting around the state. We're here in support of our siblings in the labor movement at 580, and also in support of our advocates in the State House and the State Assembly who fought so hard to provide the quality funding that this agency needs. I was raised by 2 social workers, both of my parents, my entire life, and the work that 580 members do to serve children and families across the state is one of the most important requirements, moral requirements of state government to provide these types of services to make sure people are safe. This $4.6 million needs to continue to stay in the budget because it shouldn't be used as a way to say, well, we didn't spend it and we should use it somewhere else. Because what it could potentially risk are future services. And families need more services, not less. Is it fair to say, 580 members in the room?
Yes.
Huh? Yes? Yes. So, part of the thing is that we stand You know, as also my other hat that I wear as the Executive Vice President of 1199, our members give and provide health care to the people that 580 members support. And when they are given access to state services because of the caseloads being so big, then we see a continuum of problems across Rhode Island. People's health care is affected, people's housing is affected, and it doesn't help our communities. Last but not least, we need to recognize the work that social workers do as valuable. That means they need to be paid with the recognition where they can sustain their own lives and their own families and buy a house in an economy that's upside down for working people right now. And so we're here in support of our siblings in the labor movement at 580, the services and families that they serve in this important moment, and we're calling on the Assembly to continue the funding for this agency and not cut it a penny. Families don't deserve a cut in Rhode Island. They deserve more. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Our one of our many child welfare champions, but one of our most well-known child welfare champions, Rep. Casimiro.
Hi, everybody. I'm here with my colleagues in government to let you know that we appreciate everything that you do, and we are advocating for that money to be restored to the budget. We appreciate everything that you do. You do God's work, and then you get fatalities that you have to report, fatalities that you have to deal with, and that really needs to change. We have a new director. I have faith that she'll bring a new vision and a new direction, but you can't do that without resources, and part of those resources are personnel, salaries. It all goes together, but we can't effectuate change without the resources. And it saddens me that I'm here again today because 3 years ago I was in this very same spot advocating for this very same reason, that we cannot continue to cut funds from kids. We cannot continue to cut funds from kids. 2023 saw a huge spike in child fatalities and near fatalities. Not for the lack of good work, but it's just like the caseloads are out of control. 2024 is on track to break that record, and we can't have that. We can't have that for our kids. We can't have that for our workers. So it really is up to the General Assembly to get you the resources that you need to do your job. I also want to mention there are a number of other bills in front of the General Assembly right now that don't have a fiscal note attached to them that will help all of you. It will help address caseloads. It'll help address a full salary review, and there's others that will help kids. So it's not always about money, but today it saddens me that I'm here once again to ask the General Assembly to restore the money to the DCYF budget. I'm confident that we'll see some movement. I don't know what that movement will look like, but everybody in the General Assembly, everybody in the House of Representatives is really pushing to get that money back to you. So.
Thank you, everyone. Tom Noret, District 25, in the General Assembly, House of Representatives. So I stood here on June 22nd, 2021, same rainy day, advocating for all of you for the funds. It's important to, again, as was stated, I don't need to restate it, make sure you have the ability to do your jobs and protect our most vulnerable population. And that's what we're here to do, and we're going to stand behind you 100% in the legislature to make sure that we get these things passed and get this budget enacted with this funding in it. So thank you, and thank you all for what you do every day.
Hi, I'm Tina Spears. I'm a new representative, but I'm not, unfortunately, new to the challenges of DCYF. I'm here to support my colleagues who've been working on this issue for many, many years. And I have the unique experience of representing disability providers, so we know that not only do you need support for yourselves, more staff, wages that are competitive, but you also need a continuum of services within our community to serve you, for you to place children, to have the right resources at your fingertips. So not only are we advocating for you personally to make sure you are okay, but we are advocating for the whole of the system to support our children. So we will be advocating fiercely, and we support you, and we thank you for all your work, and keep up Keep up the good work.
So I just want to mention one last thing, just to piggyback on what Rep. Casimiro said. Rep. Casimiro has a laundry list of child welfare bills. Rep. Casimiro and her colleagues have given us a voice this legislative session to have some of the same very workers sitting in this room or standing in this room, standing for themselves, standing for their children they serve, has the ability to have a voice at hearings in the House on these bills. And that's critical, because we don't expect every bill to pass, but to give our workers the opportunity to have a voice regarding things that are critical as far as impacting the work that they do with their kids is really important. So I just want to appreciate everyone who's in the House who's supporting legislation regarding the child welfare system. Because like Rep. Spears said, this is not just about DCYF, but this is about our whole continuum of care, our whole ecosystem. So thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. We're open to have questions.
So I just want to make sure I understand fully. This 4.6 million, this is what was in last year's budget. There's just potential that it could be cut from this year's budget?
So the difference between what's in the DCYF proposed budget now and what the budget was passed last June, there's $4.6 million less, specifically for staff salaries and benefits.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What, do you understand what the sticking point is? What are you hearing from leadership?
I think the sticking point is that we allowed for this money to be put in the budget last year to help with staffing, and the positions were never filled. And not for lack of trying, but they were just never filled. So the positions that weren't filled had left money on the table. Now it's $4.6 million. So it was just assumed that the DCYF didn't need it anymore.
Okay, but that's $4.6 million or whatever is still sitting there, theoretically unspent.
Correct.
So that could just be thrown in this year without any
That's what we're
penalty.
hoping. We're hoping there's an awful lot of ask in front of the General Assembly right now.
Thank you.
So wait for one last question.
I wanted to ask a bit about just the Bradley situation. Do you guys think you were treated fairly by the U.S. Attorney?
Well, I don't speak on behalf of the department. I haven't read the report, but I believe it's consistent. Our concerns regarding that are consistent from what we're communicating here today.
I'd like to add to that too. The General Assembly has been sounding the alarm on the Bradley situation for years. For years, we've been talking about the kids that are stuck there. We have a bill in front of the General Assembly now that addresses needs assessments. That could help get the planning and the discharge preparation moving. But we've been sounding the alarm. I wasn't surprised when that report from the DOJ came out. Nobody was surprised. We was sounding the alarm for years.
I just about these funding cuts, potential funding cuts after this report's coming out, or like after this investigation. How are you guys feeling?
We can't get out of this mess if the money isn't restored. I mean, we are in a crisis mode right now, but we have an opportunity in front of us too, because we have a new DCYF director who has a vision that she sees for prevention instead of taking kids from their homes. She wants to work to keep kids in their homes. So that would lessen the burden at Bradley, but we also have a ton of kids going out of state for care, and we got to change that. So if she focuses on prevention and we give her the resources that she needs, i.e. employees who are satisfied and well paid, or fairly paid, I should say, that the problem will go away. But you can't change the situation if you're taking resources from it.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, this is a solvable problem. Exactly what we need is what was in that findings, that we need community-based programs. The workers here need services to provide to families. Without that, we will not succeed. And we should lean in on this, and we should be building and investing more, not just funding the status quo. We should be really doubling down as a state right now.
And I think one of the things that are frustrating for me is we just can't keep doing things the same old way expecting change. It's not going to happen. And if we don't have the resources to effectuate change, we're going to be here again next year doing the same exact thing. Hopefully it won't be raining, but we'll be here doing the same thing next year.
Thank you everybody so much for your time. Thank you the members coming out to show your support.
Thanks.
Everybody have a great day and stay dry.
Thank you.